Hey everybody, it's Jack, and welcome back to the fourth episode of the Online Trainer Show. So, in today's episode, I have interviewed Nick Cheadle, who is very well known in the fitness industry as a online coach, a social media influencer, and just general all-round good guy. It was great speaking to Nick because I've actually followed Nick for God, it must have been about 4 or 5 years now, and it's really interesting to get an insight on how he runs his business, what he does right now, what he's done in the past. We pretty much go through everything which has got him to where he is today, because I think a lot of people will see people who have great followings and think that it just happened overnight, and that really isn't the case with Nick, because he has put in the groundwork, he has done all the hard work to get him to where he is today. So it's a great episode, and anyone who wants to find more out about Nick, all his stuff will be in the show notes. And also, again, if you are looking for more free information from us at the Online Fitness Business, please go and join our free group over on Facebook called the Online Trainer Society. You can get that by going to our website, www.onlinefitnessbusiness.com, or typing into Facebook just the Online Trainer Society, and we will pop up. So yeah, hope you enjoy this episode, guys, and sit back and relax. Right, hello there, and welcome back to the fourth episode of the Online Trainer Show. I am your host, Jack Gadd, and today we are joined by an awesome guest, which everyone watching, listening to this, wherever you're consuming it from, will get a huge amount of value from. He is sponsored by companies like Gymshark, Optimum Nutrition, has nearly built a following to 800,000 on Instagram, has got a thriving coaching and education business, and that's Nick Cheadle. So how you doing, Nick?
Very well, mate. Thank you for having me on. So quite a spiel. Thank you.
Yeah, you deserve it. You've built that nice following, and yeah, you've been in the industry a very long time now. So it's going to be good learning from yourself, and quizzing you on all of your knowledge. So I appreciate you coming on.
Not a problem, mate. I'll do my best.
Right, so today, really what we're going to be asking Nick about is just a lot on social media, content creation, talking about his products, how he coaches as well. So obviously, guys, listen up, and yeah, this should be a good one. So let's start from the beginning. So let's start from where you started from to where you are now. Just like a brief overview that you can give us.
Yeah, sure. So I've been a personal trainer now for going on 10 years. I first started out at a very large commercial gym shortly after I finished school. And to be honest, I only really got into personal training because I thought it would just be a really good way to earn a sort of decent hourly income while I was studying.
Yeah.
I was studying business at the time, and I guess it wasn't too long before I figured out that the whole fitness thing was a little bit more interesting than the business thing that I was doing at university. So at present, I'm still halfway through that business degree. But,
oh,
really? Look, for me, I guess I started to enjoy personal training a lot more. Wanted to look into how I could become a better personal trainer, run a more successful business, become more knowledgeable and educated on the things that I was trying to help people with. And I guess it sort of snowballed from there. Shortly after, or I guess not so shortly, but I was in the industry for a couple of years, and then I think that's when social media started to really become more important and take off from there. So I guess I've been a trainer for maybe 3 or 4 years before I started to dabble with any sort of social media.
Yeah.
I think Facebook was fairly big back then, but Instagram had really yet to take off. So I think the first memory of sort of wanting to tackle social media was seeing people like Joseph Rakic, and some of the other early adopters who were sort of selling meal plans. That came across as sort of a good way of maybe making some extra money and getting some extra clients. So for me, that was really the shove in that direction. I guess from there, it's sort of grown and snowballed after I started to become more interested in it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So the online side specifically, is that the main thing for you right now? Did you ever leave the one-on-one personal training to really hone your focus on that?
In terms of business, yeah, online stuff makes up pretty much 90 to 95% of my income. I've never actually stepped away from the in-person stuff. It's always been a small part of my coaching business.
Okay.
And even now, I'm still working with a sort of handful of clients in a one-on-one capacity in person. But yeah, for me, the majority of my clients, the majority of my work is done on the computer, via email, via my website, social media, those sorts of things.
Ah, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So going on talking about social media, so there's a lot of trainers, personal trainers and coaches listening to this that really want to build their following. And obviously yourself, you've built huge followings from Facebook. Like I think you've got over, is it 1 million likes on Facebook now? And
Yeah, I think I'm getting up towards two-ish, which is
getting up towards 2 now,
surreal.
doubled.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
And also nearly 800,000 on Instagram, which is just huge. So we want to really like dive into your tactics for building a following, like forever, like not just like once, like because you seem to obviously keep building a nice following every single year. It's always going up, and I really want to sort of dive into the tactics that you've used, any do's, any don'ts of what you can do.
Sure. Look, I think yeah, more than happy to talk you through, I guess, my journey as far as social media is concerned. I think it's really important to understand that these days social media is constantly evolving. So just because I've been able to succeed doing what I've done, it doesn't necessarily mean it's replicable, particularly with some of the changes that we're now seeing in social media in regards to things like algorithms and saturation and those sorts of things. I think I was quite lucky to get in when I did. Like I said before, Instagram wasn't really on the forefront of anybody's mind when I first started using it. Certainly not to the capacity that it is currently. I think there's a lot of people on Instagram now, far more than there was when I first started. And the game has changed somewhat, but I can certainly run you through the things that I've done and continue to do in an attempt to attract more people and try and keep my account growing.
Yeah.
When I first started, no one really played the content game, whereas these days everyone plays the content game.
Yeah,
and I think for me that was my point of differentiation. I had a bit of a think about it, and the reality is any information that you need to learn, that you need to find out, that you need to know is widely available on the internet.
Yeah.
So my opinion, particularly early on, became why not have everybody hear it directly from me? Because if I can become essentially synonymous with a certain topic or a certain subject, then that is only going to help people spread the word or spread my word and help more people find me, because it's going to make it a little bit easier for me to become an authority on a subject or a topic. So for me, again, at the time, I was able to take advantage of the fact that not many people had really heard about flexible dieting. They still thought it was a bit of a fad. There were still all those ridiculous arguments on Facebook going on about clean eating versus if it's your macros. Yeah. I remember being tagged in countless arguments, by people like looking for evidence and people to stand up for them, and just those ridiculous things that would happen on Facebook. So for me, I guess I was able to take advantage of really honing in on a couple of topics. And for me, that was obviously flexible dieting first and foremost. And then shortly after that, I got heavily involved with DUP and strength-related training. And for me, that was pretty much the way that I coached, the way that I trained, obviously the way that I ate, and was able to essentially put out as much content relating to that as possible. My intention was to become an authority on these topics. And I think even still today, most people would probably say that they found me through probably flexible dieting or something relating to nutrition, maybe eating junk food, I don't know, but something like that where, essentially I put out a lot of information in regards to, one or two topics mainly. And then that's sort of how I've grown my brand and my following from that. It's been a long process. I think I've been using Instagram for 4 or 5 years. Don't quote me on that, because I would hate to say I've been using it before it really kicked off. But Yeah, I mean, for me, it was just a consistency game. How can I put out as much regular, helpful, and useful content as possible?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And that does, like, it resonates a lot with what you put out now. The content is really consistent, and it's good content as well. It's consumable, it's truthful, it's evidence based as well. So one thing you said at the start of that, then you said obviously everyone is playing the content game right now. Like, there's a lot of people putting out amazing content on Instagram. So how would you try and, or how do you now, like, differentiate yourself from all of what the other people are doing? Because there's a lot of people talking about flexible dieting, like, there's no doubt about it. There's a lot of posts on that. There's a lot of posts on progressive overload, increasing volume. So, like, how do you specifically make your own mark on that so you become obviously like the go-to guy?
Yeah, I mean, that's a brilliant question because, the reality is that these sorts of environments and the playing field is always going to be changing. So it's important to make sure that you're constantly evolving as a business or a brand or as an individual, whatever it is you're trying to achieve, to make sure that you can consistently add value. And I think it's really important to be yourself as much as possible on social media. More and more these days, we're seeing people opening up and being more and more vulnerable, which is important, I think, particularly when done authentically. Um, I think for me, the thing is you need to have an angle, you need to have a niche, you need to essentially specialize in something so you can
Yeah.
become an authority on that topic. And whether that topic is, something that is evidence based, whether it is to have an opinion of a certain thing, or whether your thing is trying to help people through, or sharing the challenge that you faced in order to relate better to other people. I think that's a big thing. You need to be able to relate in some way, shape, or form, because a lot of people can see pretty pictures on Instagram and think that's never going to be me. But I think the real secret to connecting with people and building a following that actually cares is being relatable, so that people can actually understand what it is you're trying to talk about, understand how it relates to them, how what you're saying is actually relevant to them, and give them an idea that first and foremost, you are actually just an average person to begin with. You've just decided to take the step to share what it is you're going through, maybe share how you've overcome some challenges that you face in your life, and given them maybe some sort of value or tool to help with overcoming something similar in their own life.
Yeah. So talk about a topic or a piece of content and then relate it back to a moment that you've possibly had in your life that could then resonate with them reading it at that time.
Yeah, I think, the reality is everybody has their own story. A lot of people come to me and say, I want to start a social media account. What should I do? So, well, I don't know. What do you care about? What turns you on? I would definitely start there. But outside of that, the most relatable bits of content for me are the everyday bits of content. Every day we're going to go through highs and lows. I think the secret to relating to people well is to share those highs and lows, almost the lows in particular, just because it makes you far more relatable. Tell your own story, essentially, because whatever it is you've been through, chances are there are millions of other people that are going through the exact same thing, whether it's a good thing, whether it's a bad thing. And that is how you talk to people. You talk to people about the things they're going through, that you're going through, and how hard / good / brilliant / difficult, challenging was this.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. That so. Going on from Instagram, about posting, like, do you have a specific strategy that you use? Because I know for myself, I've trialed like creating a bunch of posts and then posting them out, and they can flop. And I've tried like off the cuff stuff as well, where I've just sort of sat down, I've said, okay, I want to talk about this, let's write it, let's post it, and then that's it. What's your kind of strategy for posting at the minute? Do you kind of like repost old content, or are you like just literally off the cuff, whatever you think about at that specific time?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't actually plan my social media. There will be times where occasionally I have an idea pop in my head, and I might pre-prepare something for, the next post that I
Yeah.
put up. Um, but for the most part, I end up just posting, whatever is on my mind at the time. Typically, it'll take me a little bit longer than 30 seconds to create a post, but um, yeah, I mean, there's certainly very minimal preparation. Nothing more than a day or two in advance.
Yeah.
I used to, when I first began, I used to post once a day. That was my thing. For me, I would wake up and one of the first things on my to-do list for the day would be to prepare a social media post for when I considered to be the most optimal time to post. So for the longest time, I used to post pretty much every day around 3 p.m.
Yeah.
Sydney time. So I just needed to come up with something before 3 p.m. so that I could post it by that time, essentially. And the notes section of my phone is filled with thousands of ideas and thousands of sort of pre-prepared posts, which helps. Occasionally, I'll be training a client, and I'll have an idea pop into my head, in which case I'll quickly excuse myself and pen the idea. But for the most part, I tend to just go with what is on my mind or what's happened to me most recently, and talk about an issue that has arisen recently, I guess.
Yeah.
More recently, posting less frequently, more not necessarily as a tactic, more because I just haven't quite got the time at the moment. To be fair, I find social media is very time consuming, and particularly if you want to build an engaging following, it's important, I think, to communicate with the people that are engaging with your content. And I like to try and respond to people that comment. I like to try and get back to messages. And the reality is that takes a lot of time and at times can detract from running a business. So for me, I'm far more selective now with when and how frequently I post, simply because I know that when I do post, it's going to be a time-consuming experience in order to engage with the people that are engaging with me. So I guess now it's anywhere from 2 to 4 times per week. But lately, it's been closer to 2, to be fair.
Yeah.
Just because, like I said, I've got a few things going on at the moment outside of social media, which tend to take priority at times.
Yeah. No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think to grow a following, like you said, like in the past, you would post at specific times and stuff, and that almost gets your following used to when you're going to post. So they're almost ready for your posting times, so they can consume your content straight away, which obviously can be really, really beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different trains of thought with that too, though. Posting at the same time every single day more than likely means you're going to start to communicate with the same people every day. So I think there is an argument too for changing up the times of day that you are posting. Certainly now with the algorithm, it doesn't really matter when you're posting. It seems the people that get to see it now are fewer and further between. But now I do try and vary it. I think if you keep things the same all of the time, then chances are you're only going to spend people exactly every day. So, if you want to grow a following, it's probably important to try and increase the amount of exposure that you have, and that's going to include posting at different times. I think it is important, particularly early on, if your main goal and if your main priority is to build a social media following, it stands to reason that you should probably be posting more frequently than less frequently. For me, one of my priorities right now is just not growing my following. My business related pursuits are much higher prioritized than getting a few more followers for me at this point in time. There was a time, absolutely. I'm more than happy to say that building my social media following was very, very important to me. I'm not entirely sure those reasons were admirable or worth sharing, but it is what it is now, and I'm fortunate to be in this position whereby I can now leverage that following. But it's I think it's a game of consistency for the most part, and for the best part of particularly the first 3 years I was running that Instagram account, I was super consistent. I would post every single day religiously the very best image that I could with the most valuable content that I could, to try and attract as many people as I could.
Yeah. I think that's like one of the big things we've seen in the podcast with other coaches is just like the consistency of the content. And yes, like right now it might not be picking up, but in a year's time, 2 years time, it might start to pick up. And that's just, it's a patience game at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, Gary Vee said a brilliant thing. He says many brilliant things, but one of the best things that he said that sort of really resonated with me was, you never know which piece of content you create might go viral. So create lots of them, because every day might be your opportunity.
Yeah.
And, there's been, heaps of people that we would all know of where, all of a sudden we see them pop in our newsfeed and we're like, well, I've never seen this person before. What's this? And, that's perhaps their piece of viral content that has sort of skyrocketed them. I remember a guy that I follow now, Fitness IQ, Jorge.
Oh,
he
yeah.
runs that account.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've probably heard of him, right? I've never seen anybody go viral as quickly as he went viral.
Mad, wasn't it? I remember seeing it last year.
Like hundreds of thousands of followers in a week.
Yeah.
You should be talking to him about social media, right? Not me.
Be a good guy to get on, actually, yeah. But
that's like a brilliant example. I mean, he was also I think, as far as I'm concerned, he looked to be the first that did those sort of infographic type videos, whereby he would sort of freeze frame on a video and talk through technique points. Now everyone does it, because it works so well for him. People like to copy.
Yeah.
The original. But for me, that's the perfect example of how someone can go viral, virtually overnight.
Yeah, it's a perfect example, yeah. Right, so obviously, like, behind the scenes, there's a lot that goes on with emails, advertising, like special tools that you might use for social media and stuff. So what are you doing right now in regards to emails? Because that's a big thing that we focus on here with OFB, is like our emails being like a key source to putting content out and obviously gaining clients. So do you have like an email strategy right now, or are you, again, like with Instagram, almost like off the cuff, or is there like a strategy to it?
To be fair, man, in regards to email marketing, I am far more off the cuff now than I used to be.
Yeah.
I used to send out very regular content, and I think a couple of years ago I actually set myself the challenge of sending out one email per day for the entire year. And what I found, I made it to about May, and what I found was that the quality of my emails started to decrease.
Yeah.
And some of the time I would end up sending an email for the sake of sending an email, and I found that the quality of that content started to come down. So from that point in time, I've started to email more in line with when I have something to say, and making sure that, in the same way that I try to always add value when I post on social media, now I only try and email out if I can add value in some way, shape or form. If I've obviously got a product launch or something like that happening, then it will be a little bit more calculated in terms of the way that I go about things. I'll create a launch sequence or something of the sort to help with promoting and increasing awareness of a product, and then ensuring that the launch goes as well as possible. But for the most part now, if I've got something good to say, or if I think of something that is worthwhile, then I'll share it. And hopefully that means I end up sharing anywhere from sort of 1 to 3 or 4 newsletters per week now. But I'll be honest, sometimes I forget. Sometimes I don't send that many. Sometimes, there'll be months where I'm so busy that I send out 2 in an entire month.
Yeah. Obviously, with emails, like daily emails and stuff, like you said in the past, you've done that, and the content, it can obviously like veer off, because like I've noticed that myself when I've been doing that. If I wake up every morning committed to writing an email, I just write nonsense, and it won't be anything of like real value. So what you said then makes a lot of sense, because like I've spent numerous times like for an hour just sat there thinking about what to write, when really I could just be cracking on with something else. So that's quite good to see that you kind of have that insight on your emails as well. So like a big part of obviously businesses is advertising, and now Facebook and Instagram, like they're enjoying people paying more for the platform, which is obvious because they need to make money. So do you run like any ads for for launches at all, or any like free programs, any ebooks still, or are you just specifically now just like quite organic?
So to be honest, Facebook advertising is not my forte. So whenever I've run campaigns outside of the occasional test here and there,
Yeah.
I've always employed the use of a marketing guru or agency.
Yeah.
So, I'm of the opinion that you wouldn't try and fix your own toilet. You'd always get a plumber to do that. But, and with the way that Facebook ads are now so extensive, I'd rather just pay somebody to do that for me and help with that, because I find the few times that I've tried it in the past, I don't really know how to set something up like that.
Yeah.
And I end up just pissing away money. That's the last thing that I want. So for me, I've always actually outsourced that to make sure that everything is sort of working as well as it can be, and just go with sort of an expert opinion as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Outsource where you can't deliver yourself. Makes business a lot easier.
Oh, mate, absolutely. That whole Facebook advertising thing is an absolute minefield as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree.
It's very difficult.
Right, so I want to talk about the products that you offer, because I've seen like over the years various products from yourself. So obviously you've got HyperDBS, fat loss challenges, one-on-one coaching, and you've had obviously ebooks in the past, which like now recently I've not seen you obviously look to sell them as much. They more are so like a freebie that comes with the products, like the HyperDBS and everything. So like, can you like go into detail about what your current products are, and do you change them periodically based on what you're trying to do at that time?
Yeah, sure. So when I first started, I did a lot of email marketing and coaching. That was pretty much all I had.
Yeah.
And then for the first time, I tried an affiliate product whereby I was selling somebody else's product. And that product was a DUP-related product that a guy named Mike Samuels and Jason Maxwell put together.
Yeah.
And it actually went really well, because for me, it was the first time I'd ever actually tried to actively sell something via newsletter.
Yeah.
And so I guess for me, that was a pretty big wake-up call as to, like, holy shit, if I create my own product, then imagine how well that would go when I'm actually selling my own thing. So for me, the first product that I created was an ebook called Lifestyle Power Building. And that was essentially a product that dabbled in nutrition, but also offered a training product that included, a bodybuilding take on strength training, whereby you could actively look to get stronger and bigger at the same time. Because for me, that was pretty much how I trained at that point in time. And I think for me, it was the sort of product that I felt confident in pushing, because I had a lot of people that were curious as to how I trained and how, how I looked the way that I did. And for me, that was the most authentic thing I could put out at the time. And from there, I started to write another book, which was essentially my current book that I still sell some copies of, the If It Fits Your Macros Bible. So that was a much more extensive product. It's 264 pages long and covers just about every single aspect of nutrition you could ever hope to come across. And for me, that was really the one that I feel most confident pushing still now, because I feel like the information is still relevant and still authentic. Lifestyle Power Building was good, but I feel like there are some updated training principles out there at the moment, and it's not still the sort of thing that I push or stand behind 100%, simply because I know more now and I have learned more and I'm more confident in my training methods now, and the reasons and the principles behind those. Not that Lifestyle Power Building was a subpar product, it's just that I know more now. And if I was to sort of look at reselling that, there are a few things that I would change in it. from there, to be honest, man, what I found is over time, information-based products, in that products that solely offer information, don't really give you much of a point of difference as far as a unique selling point is concerned. So, whilst I've sold more copies of the 50 Macros Bible than any other book I've put out there, like I was saying before, there's really no information out there that you can't get for free.
Yeah.
So putting a price tag on something that is already readily available no longer really made sense as far as I was concerned. Plus, those sorts of information products are really the sorts of things that you have to push and push hard in order to sell copies continuously. And I found when I pushed them really hard, I sold a reasonable amount of copies. But when I wasn't talking about it at all, sales more or less stopped. So for me, it was more about figuring out first and foremost, how can I help more people in a more 360-degree manner?
Yeah.
And then how can I do that in an authentic way as well? Because there's a lot of people in the fitness space that just sell generic crap programs, copy and paste rubbish that is essentially one size fits all, so that they can make as much money as possible without spending very much time having to work for it. So for me, that was never an option. I've always talked about sustainability, and I've always talked about enjoying the process and doing something that you can stick to for a long period of time. Short, quick fixes are never, ever going to be the way that you should look to achieve anything. So how can I essentially create a product that is going to cater for that? Now, obviously, throughout the duration, I've always had my coaching. That is the main product and service that I sell, because working one-on-one with people not only allows me to do my job the very best way possible, but it allows me to help the client in question as much as I possibly can, develop a relationship with them, and build them something that is unique to every other client that I work with. So how can I essentially begin to replicate that to more people whilst also making it more affordable without taking up so much of my time that I can't actually pay my proper clients and my full paying clients the time that they need and deserve? So for me, that was where the concept of HyperDBS came about. Now, HyperDBS is essentially a training program that is built out to individual 1-rep maxes. So whilst everybody follows a similar training framework, the individual workouts are actually specific to how strong you are, and this is all calculated off 1-rep maxes and RPE. So basically, the user has the opportunity to make the workout as difficult as they feel it should be. On top of that, we have a membership portal that is attached to the product, which essentially includes all of the information that they would need to become a better lifter, to understand their diet, to set up their macros, to diet, to eat, to do everything they need outside of those training sessions in order to succeed, as well as a Facebook group where I run coaching check-ins for each and every person that is in there, or for each and every person that wants to take part in them. So we went, the name HyperDBS, not many people are aware of it, and this is something that we're working on. HyperDBS essentially stands for hypertrophy, deadlift, bench press, squat.
Okay,
because
I didn't know what the DBS meant.
Yeah. So, and to be honest, that's actually one of the biggest challenges that we've had. Nobody really knows what HyperDBS is, stands for, does, what you can expect from following it. So at the moment, we're actually running through an enormous rebrand, whereby we'll be changing the name, the way that the program works. Yeah. We're going to introduce a lot more, a bunch of different training options. You can train for size, strength, to get leaner, to bulk quickly, to bulk slowly, to lose fat, and retain as much muscle as possible, to lose fat more quickly. We're building out a far more extensive product and actually changing the name of it as well to make it more intuitive and to essentially help with the marketing process, because that's been one of the biggest challenges that we've faced. Mm-hmm. Whilst I believe it is a brilliant product, at the moment we're just having a little bit of difficulties in communicating what exactly the product is. Yeah. But the really cool thing about it is that it's all delivered through a smartphone app on your phone. You can open the app and log your workouts. There are links inside the app to videos of each exercise that we do in the program. It's a full-on product that pretty much covers every aspect of training and nutrition, whilst also catering to individual needs and working in with a user's 1 rep max and individual strength levels. So I guess it's intuitive in the way that it's been created, because I've built the training program using sub-maximal training principles, which then tie in with the individual's 1 rep max. And then obviously they have the support they need in the Facebook group as well as the membership portal to really succeed and accelerate their results in any direction they so choose. And for me, the last sort of 12 months or so has been all about figuring out how we can deliver that product as best as possible. And that's why I've ended up, I mentioned before, we're looking at rebranding that, and that's been the focus of the last few months. And hopefully within the next sort of 4 to 8 weeks, all will be unveiled, and we'll have an even more rock solid product that can help even more people in the most seamless way possible. But for me, those information-based products are always going to have a time limit. They're always going to have, whilst you might be able to sell them, it's not going to be possible without actively selling them, if that makes sense. So for me, it was really about not only how can I leverage my time a little bit better, leverage the following that I have and help more people, but how can I do it in a way that isn't going to take up all of my time, that isn't going to turn people away due to the price, but also give them the capacity to learn as well as make progress whilst they do so. Yeah.
No, it sounds like a great program, because like you said, obviously you're trying to leverage the amount of following you've got and still keep it evidence-based as well, because like I think you mentioned earlier as well, like people build these big followings and then they just sell nonsense stuff which doesn't help anyone for longer than 2 weeks, whereas obviously like Hyper DBS is an ongoing forever program where they can learn as they go as well.
Yeah, exactly right. And the really cool thing is like, obviously we run this Facebook group and we can see those members that have been there since the start. We first launched in June last year, and we've still got some of those, I guess what you would call foundation members as part of the program, and seeing the progress they've made simply by following the system is brilliant. But as you say, it's one of those things where if you're going to put your face or name to a product, you want to be able to stand behind it. And essentially make sure that if you're under fire or under siege or under attack, you have a reason and an answer to any questions or demands, I guess, being thrown your way. If you're selling a generic meal plan, how can you stand behind an angry customer that isn't getting results if all you sent them is something that you wrote for somebody else a year ago? So for me, it's always been a case of how can I give the most authentic product possible, because I built my brand. I consider my brand to have been built on authenticity and evidence-based research. I can't go on and create a product that isn't that, simply because that would shoot my credibility in the foot. And that would more than likely be the end of me. So for me, it's you've got to stay true to the way that you build your brand, the way you operate as both a personality on social media and as well as a businessman. So
would you say that
one of the...
Go on, mate.
I was just going to finish with one of the things I think I've come to realize too is that in any, not necessarily business life cycle, but certainly what I've found to be the case over social media as a person of influence, I guess, is that over time, chances are you're probably only going to have the opportunity to sell so many products. And if you are one of those people that decide one of those products, for whatever reason, is going to be some sort of skinny tea or whatever, that's ultimately going to be a product that you could have sold as your own. If you're going to put your face or name to a product, you better make sure that it's one that you're happy to stick to for the rest of the time, because every product you sell is going to influence people's perception of you as a person and as a business. And that will in turn affect your ability to sell in the future and potentially affect your ability to push a product in the future because of previous and past perceptions of what you've pushed. For me, I know that I've worked with several brands on social media as well that might be interested in paying me for a couple of posts or to spruik their brand short term. And I'll be honest, if I had my time again, I probably would have done less of that. Not that I've done it many times. I've probably done it maybe 3 or 4 times, but I would be far more selective with what I did it with, because pushing somebody else's product is quite simply an opportunity for me to have pushed my own product or a different product that I maybe didn't create, and have some form of effectiveness with it. Ultimately, somebody that sells something all the time is probably going to be less and less effective over time. So in order to maintain, I guess, as much selling power as possible, you want to be somewhat selective with what it is you choose to sell at any one point in time.
Yeah, and would you say, like, on the selling side of things, how often you sell is critical with your social media as well? Because, like, I've found in the past where if I'm trying to sell a challenge or to sell some spots for my coaching, that the engagement for that week that I'm trying to sell will really drop. So do you have any like tactics to sell in to not kind of like be sleazy with it as such?
Yeah, I think it's difficult, because people can see a sale a mile off, and you're right, engagement does tend to drop. So figuring out a way to sell authentically is very important. I do the majority of my selling, I guess, so to speak, via email. And that simply comes through the way of some sort of call to action at the end of an email. I learned not that early on, actually, that you really do need to ask people to buy what it is you're trying to sell. I think I spent the first sort of year of email marketing simply just sending out content. I never asked for anything, never sold anything, which I think was one of the reasons that first affiliate campaign I sent out was so effective. It was the first time that I'd really ever asked anybody to buy something off me. And I guess that was a learning experience in itself, but also gave me the opportunity to build a really good relationship with people before I did that. But yeah, I mean, so selling on social media is difficult, particularly with the algorithm these days too. I think they have ways of picking up whether or not you're trying to advertise your own products, and they end up squashing it on the feed. But I think the most important thing you can use social media for is to build relationships with people, put content out, become an authority in a field, and then try and direct people somehow, whether it be through your posts or through stories or anything like that, where you can interact with people on a more one-to-one basis, direct those people to other mediums, whether that be via email, whether that be your website, whether that be whatever, and then sell outside of social media, ideally. Social media is still a powerful tool. You'd be crazy if you're trying to fill a challenge to not put something up, because chances are, not putting up means no one's going to see it. But if people don't see these things, obviously there's not going to be any knowledge about it at all. But I would just be more selective with exactly what you sell directly on social media, in terms of pure products. Whereas ideally I try and do most of my selling off social media, because I want to try and add value on social media to bring people to my more direct means of communication and turn them into a more loyal, more engaged subscriber of sorts. And then build a better relationship with them before I just go buy my shit. Basically.
I see a lot of that for sure. That's interesting, because like what you're saying there is a great lead on to like what I wanted to ask you, because like obviously right now you've got like a very good following and everything. What would you do if you didn't have one, like to build your business? So if let's say you were starting from scratch, what would be your way of going about building a business? Would you do things like free challenges, Facebook groups, and especially in this current day and age as well, because obviously it was different to what it was 4 or 5 years ago. For newer trainers coming up, like what would you recommend for them to do?
I think it's really important to diversify. One of the things that I wish I got into sooner is YouTube. But I think it's important to put out various types of content across multiple platforms, if possible, to try and provide as much value as possible. The thing is, I think something that I've learned from running my own business is that people love free things, and the best way to engage with somebody is to give them something for free.
Yeah.
And in return, all you ask for is their details so that you can communicate with them again in the future. So a big thing that I've sort of pushed this year is building effective funnels and means of communication with new subscribers, and creating essentially answers to people's problems and putting those things out for free in order to attract new people to me, to my business, to my services. So I guess the way that I would go about starting off is obviously, leverage social media as much as I possibly can, put out as much free content as I possibly can in the niche that I'm trying to attract, to try and, get as much stuff out there. I think the best way to go about that is to obviously use Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, if that's your thing. I never really used that, to be honest, and YouTube. So those three in particular, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, simply because they're just such brilliant ways of engaging with people, and there's always the opportunity for content to go viral on those platforms, simply by other people seeing them, engaging with them, sharing them. If you can also tie things into a blog, I think that would be really effective as well, somewhere that you can essentially collate all of your content. I think it's really important to figure out ways that you can use content for a variety of different ways. I used to create an Instagram post and it would just be an Instagram post, whereas now if I'm ever going to create content, I might create a blog post in which I'll post part of that to Facebook. I might turn it into a shorter Instagram caption, and hell, if I've got the time, I can turn it into a video for YouTube as well. Multi-purpose content is, both effective in terms of the way that it can reach more people, but it's also a brilliant way to save time. Having to come up with fewer ideas essentially, or at least give you something for the future. You obviously might not post the same content on every medium at the same time, but a video form article is something that you could use down the track to reapproach a certain topic. So leverage social media as much as you possibly can, and then build effective funnels whereby you're trying to engage people by giving them something for free. I would build multiple lead magnets, things that are going to attract people and draw people in to download something for free, so that you can get their name and their email address, and you can continue sending them content via email marketing. And in line with what I said before, if you can build a database and spend time actually nurturing that database by building a relationship and sending them plenty of content before you actually get to the point in time where you ask them to spend money with you, I think that's a far better way of going about things, simply because, like I said before, when I first started, I didn't ask anybody to buy anything off me. And then the moment I did, because I built such a brilliant relationship with the people that were on my list, it was so much more effective. Certainly so much more effective in terms of relative numbers back then than it is now, even though I've got far more people on my list. So I guess the short answer is to look at social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, any other medium that you want to get in there, create a blog or a website whereby you can put all of your content together and think about what it is that the people you're trying to attract are struggling with, and then solve that problem, put it into some sort of free download, and then create an effective funnel whereby once they download that, there is some sort of email automation or something like that whereby you can build a relationship without having to manually build that relationship, and put them into a position whereby they begin to trust you, they see you as an authority on a subject, and you have the opportunity in the future to buy off you. One of the things I learned early on was that some people might be prepared to buy off you immediately. Some people it might take 10 days. Some people it might take 10 years. But you're never going to know that. So you want to play the chances are that it's going to take 10 years card. Because if you can do that and you can continue putting out content for 10 years, then chances are you're going to figure out which of those clients are going to buy off you sooner as well, and that will help fuel that whole 10-year client approach.
Yeah, that's epic. That's like that's an online trainer blueprint right there from from start to finish. So yeah, that's really good. And like lead magnets are obviously a very big thing right now. Creating a free piece of content specific to the niche to get the email and put further content out. And like you said, it is a long game. Playing that 10-year card is much better than going for the quick sale, which you may never get again from the same person. So yeah, that's a really, really good piece of advice there. So obviously I don't want to keep you for too long because I know you're a busy guy. So like, what is your plans for the future in terms of coaching? Have you got like a 5-10 year plan, or is it just really with the HyperDBS stuff to get that to a place where you wanted it to?
To be honest, man, my goals surrounding HyperDBS are to finish off that rebrand that we've got coming up. We've just decided on the new name, which is pretty exciting, and then we're in the process of rebuilding the website and membership portal to make it more effective and to make it a more seamless experience for each and every user. Obviously, we want that product to be able to scale as effectively as possible. I'd love to be able to help 50,000 people through that program, because the reality is we have years and years of programming, of progressions, and so on and so forth to help people with. That's all been pre-planned out. It's the sort of thing whereby you don't have to think anymore. You just follow the program, and due to its sub-maximal nature, it's one of those things that pretty much guarantees you strength and muscle progression simply by following it. So that'll be the focus for now. As far as coaching, I have no long-term plans. It's still going to be my bread and butter, so to speak. I love working with people in a one-on-one capacity, and I love the fact that I get to build relationships with people all over the world whilst helping them look and feel better about themselves. But outside of that, my more immediate plans are actually to set up my own gym and facility with my girlfriend. It's actually the reason that we got punted from Athletes Authority. They found out that we had plans to open our own gym and basically terminated our contracts on the spot. So we have some pretty cool plans and things in the works which we're looking forward to, and obviously have a busy couple of months as we go about finalising all of those details. But I guess the newer version of HyperDBS and my own facility is what my foreseeable future is looking like.
Oh, that's going to be exciting. I'm excited to follow and see how it all unfolds. Should be good. So for anyone listening, where is best to find more about you? Obviously, Instagram is probably the main one, but like, where is best to find more about you or contact you for any advice or anything?
So pretty much Nick Cheadle Fitness is my handle for just about everything. 1 word on Instagram, 3 words on Facebook and YouTube. And then my website is nickcheadlefitness.com. There are various other things that I could offer, but I think that's probably the easiest way to go about it. Either of those 3 portals. And if you want to reach out, then nick@nickcheadlefitness.com is my email address.
Awesome. Cool. I'll for anyone listening, I'll put the notes for Nick's links all in the podcast notes. So if you are wanting to find more out about Nick, then you can do that way as well. So again, brilliant to have you on the show, Nick. It was great learning more about yourself, the goals, plans, and like how you coach from like your standpoint. And then, really, really appreciate you coming on today. So thank you very much, mate.
Mate, not a problem. Thank you very much for having me on. It's been good fun. I hope your listeners got something out of it.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. 100% they will. Right, so that concludes the 4th episode of the Online Trainer Show. So thank you again to Nick for coming on, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Cheers, brother. Have a good one.